So here with us now to break down this cancel culture movement and the suppression of free speech are two people well known for openly and unapologetically expressing their support for the president through music. You may know them as the music production team, Milk and Cooks. So guys, I'm really appreciative to have you on tonight. It's a really interesting conversation because, I mean, all of these things overlap, and you're at the forefront of an industry right now where politics doesn't usually come into the place too much. So what has that been like for you guys?
Well, first off, thanks for having us on. And I mean, it's been a crazy journey. We didn't really mean to get political. We never expected to kind of go into this realm, but we were kind of forced into it by just being curious people throughout our lives. And over the course of our, journey, being in Chicago, coming out for Trump, coming out, before the election in 2016, we kind of got a lot of suppression from. I mean, it's what happens to everybody, right? Sure. That you hear about as artists coming out, and we kind of had to make our own way.
I think, well, it reaches a fever pitch every election year. 2016 is when people really start to say how they feel as you feel the pressure of the election coming. We went from being hometown heroes to the hated in our hometown because we're in Chicago, because people were not identifying with how we felt. But I mean, it's what happens to a lot of people, like Bryson. Well, Bryson Gray kind of came out after the MAGA movement. He really wasn't in the political or music scene before. I mean, he was a little bit, but people don't know that really. But I mean, it is, like you said, the cancel stuff. But the beautiful thing is that we were always independent guys before this all started. We were entrepreneurial musicians. We didn't like having a manager. We didn't like having an agent. We routed all our tours, all our shows ourselves. We have our own record label. We distribute our music ourselves. So when the psychos came for us, we were already a little bit prepared by infrastructure we had developed beforehand.
Yeah.
And that is an interesting point because, for example, I am from Chicago myself as well, and it's not MAGA country, contrary to what Jussie Smollett will try to tell you or anything like that. But it is an interesting point because, for example, historically, music has been a little bit about the counterculture movement, if you will. I mean, rock and roll was only so cool because it was going against the grain. I mean, you could go against whatever. I mean, rap really resurfaced because of what it was speaking out about. I mean, there are so many different types of music where it's not always the cool thing to do to necessarily just fall in line with what everyone else is doing. So when you guys came out with your music or anything like that, did you notice that perhaps there was a negative effect from other artists, or were people accepting? What was that like?
I mean, and what you say is very true. It's always been so crazy to think how for so long the counterculture, within people that were kind of curious thinkers in anti-government just in general, you have this idea of like the government is definitely something's going on. They're trying to control our lives. And then when Trump comes into the fold, everyone starts rooting for, Google, corporate monopolies, the mainstream media. And it's just like, okay, well, hold on. You guys think you're the resistance, right? That's the whole thing. But, you're cheering on.
Politics has its first true rebel ever. And then everyone goes and flip-flops to the establishment culture that had been there. But to your point, yeah, I mean, I said, we were a bit insulated from the effects because we had developed independent infrastructure.
Yeah, thankfully we got big enough to where we could take the blow and then, figure out and survive. And we're crafty dudes, so we figured out how to keep it moving.
And we'd rather be that cliche quote, hated for who you are than loved for who you're not. But we had gigs canceled. We had big collaborations lined up. Performances where a big artist that we're going to perform with at a festival didn't show up for their flight because her publicist told her
saw our tweets
yeah. Just classic.
And it's almost like you freak out at the time, but when you look back it's great. And another thing is a lot of people know Mike Cernovich obviously for the Epstein files and all that and whatever, we actually met up with him a few years ago and produced a couple of events with him because we're also event producers. We do everything, right? And we did these A Night for Freedom shows, and we had a contract where we had a summer-long, it was going to be an all-summer-long residency at a place in our hometown, nice money every week, doing the whole thing. And a couple of staff members saw that we had done this event with Cernovich, and they, after the contract, canceled the whole thing just because they didn't want us to be, they freaked out. They spiraled, and, but we've dealt with it a lot, and it is what it is. I think it makes you stronger, makes you more, innovative in your craft.
Exactly. We've gotten the classic on the internet, you're a white supremacist for just being not a liberal.
Yeah, racist, whatever it is, Russian propagandist. Yeah, I'm sure everybody's heard that at some point too. But I do want to touch on something too. So I know that you have an event coming up in the near future. I believe October 24th is the set date, if I'm not mistaken. So you are getting gigs, but they are a little bit more, I would say this upcoming one is at least more politically oriented. In fact, I have it up on our screen right now with a flyer. Can you talk a little bit about that event and why it is that you guys are helping put on the production there and are kind of looking forward to performing there as well?
Yeah, so like you said, it's kind of all snowballed, you know, like we still have maintained some of our DJ gigs and a lot of people who don't really care about the political ends. But as we've connected with a lot of people in politics, you know, we ended up getting set up where it's pretty much all locked in. We're still working out some of the details because, as you know, in this movement with these types of events, there's a lot of moving parts. You got to be careful, you know, with counter protesting, getting the permits, all that type of stuff. But
venues can cancel the last minute.
Eric Early, it's Eric Early, Beverly Hills Park. Ricky Rebel is going to be there. I think Ricky's going to be jumping out of a helicopter to the stage.
And one thing I'd just like to say about the emergence of events like this is that there has been a monopoly on anything entertainment related by the liberal left in various industries that branch out, but especially event throwing. We eventually got tired of not having our own stuff where you're just surrounded by like-minded people. So we've been doing things like this. The frequency of them happening is increasing, and it's just like-minded individuals that are congregating around music, beer, a good time.
Well, and it's like the political world is the very political world is pulling the artistic elements into it. Then that's where we're coming in, where we're bringing in, like, you know, people call it like the cool factor, not just us in general, but we DJ, we produce music, we've released tons of songs, we do house music. Our music isn't political.
Right.
We do bang house sets. Like, everybody gets down to the sets.
We're good at what we do. We travel the world. We're entertainers, and bringing someone, I'm proud of ourselves for being true to who we are, because people have found us in this niche where we can provide the entertainment. Because at the end of the day, conservative parties need DJs too.
Right. And so Saturday it's all coming out together. We actually have a big event in Illinois Friday. We're flying out to LA at 8 a.m. And then, you know, it's gonna be great.
Very cool. Yeah, we have the poster right there for anybody who wants to attend. And once again, the name of this duo right here is Milk and Cooks. You can see all of their stuff on Spotify, online. I mean, just Google the name, you'll be able to find it right there. But guys, I'm really looking forward to that event. It should be really cool. And to your point too, I don't think anybody was walking around Woodstock asking who everyone's political affiliation was. And if they were, they were probably there alone anyway. But guys, I really appreciate you coming on the show tonight. Thanks for breaking this down.
Sure, thanks for having us.